But I think the main things is at the end of the day, volleyball is volleyball. It's in the same 9x9 court, and the rules are the same. So we. Is that on the back of your shirt?
Yeah, it's on the back of the shirt.
You did. A little free shout out for you. And it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. You need to still execute to the best of your ability if you want a chance to win.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. This is the 9x9, the 81 square meters of the best volleyball coverage on the internet. My name is Rob St. Clair, live from Chicago in the United States. That is Everett Delorme, live from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And for the first time, Everett, probably in the history of the show, we have breaking news that we are breaking here on the 9x9, first heard to the public. This is a big one.
This one
Ben
hurts.
Josephson has been fired as the head coach of the Canadian men's national team. Yes, after less than a year at the head of the program, Ben Josephson has been fired as the head coach of the Canadian men's national team. This has been confirmed by Volleyball Canada, but not released to the public just yet. This is the first the public is hearing about it right now, and we are stunned. We are stunned. Everett, I don't even really know where to begin with this. This is your guy. This is Canada's guy. We were huge fans of this hire when the decision was made in November, and I cannot believe that Volleyball Canada pulled the trigger on this change in less than a year.
Yeah, I'm, to be honest, quite shocked when the news came across. I got a message yesterday, and it kind of knocked me off my kilter for a little bit. It was something that I wasn't expecting whatsoever, and I think this one hurts, and we're obviously going to get into it now a little bit because, Robin, you and I have been talking a bit about it for about 24 hours now. I've known for a little bit more than that, so it's been and I've spoken to some people and some stuff like that. And I mean, hey, let's start it from the beginning, that this was not by any means a successful season. And I think he himself would be the first one to admit that. Going, what was it, like 3-12 this year, 15th at VNL, we missed, didn't get relegated, and that's good. And then 17th at the World Championships is not ideal and not what anyone would have wanted. And I definitely think that, had he been around for another year, changes would have been made. I mean, I think everyone can agree that maybe the rate of change that we were trying to accomplish was maybe too much, too fast, and that somewhere in the middle needed to be found. But
let's put this in perspective just a little bit, because you're absolutely right. It was not a good summer for the Canadian men. And there were a lot of changes that Ben Josephson and his staff were trying to instill, or they really were kind of breaking things down and building that team's system,
but
their on-court system from the ground up. But here are the things about this, because you said it pretty well right after the World Championship, after Canada finished 17th, didn't make it out of pools, that there's going to be some adjustments made, exactly like you said, at the rate
have to have been, yeah, absolutely.
Because like Benjo told us when we were talking to him at VNL in Ottawa, the goal of his goal and the goal of the Canadian men's national team is to win Olympic medals. Mm-hmm. And what we saw this summer, they were not improving at a rate that they were going to even get to the Olympics. But
I mean, let's give me a second here to get into this, because I think before we get into any of that, I think we also need to look at what the roster was for this season,
right,
and what we had coming back. I mean, it's almost akin to if you're a race car driver and you're being like, hey, you know what, we're going to give you a model that's a few years old, because that's all we have right now. this team before Gord Perrin and Graham Vigrass were playing on it consistently, and Gord Perrin, a little bit longer before Graham Vigrass, was losing to Puerto Rico. We were ranked 27th in the world. Like, we were an afterthought in international volleyball, right? And absolutely, Glenn Hogue has a massive amount to do that, but so do those athletes that built that program. There has never been a bigger rebuild year than this year, right? So just on that alone, right? Not to take into account that the fact that we have one of our best liberos, Blair Ban, who's been injured, our best setter on paper, Jay Blankenau, who's also injured and battling through injuries. Nick Hogue was injured the entire time. We had guys dealing with COVID. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on. But at the same,
think about who the Olympic starting lineup was just last year.
Absolutely,
and how many of those guys were either retired from the Canadian national team or were not in the mix this summer. Blair Ban, huge loss. You can't even imagine how much better that team's first contact would have been. Shawan Vernon Evans is a big loss. Gord Perrin, Graham Vigrass,
Stephen Marshall for the most of it too. Like
TJ Sanders. I mean, come on.
It was a massive rebuilding year, but like this was the time to make this move, right? This was the time to make a move to a new coach and to a new system. And in my opinion, and a lot of the people that I spoke to, that they had made the right choice, right? Everyone knew that there was going to be a rebuilding year. Right.
This is last November when they were going through the hiring cycle.
100%, right? Everyone knew they were going to be going through a rebuilding year. Everyone knew it was going to be tough without a lot of these guys. We had to rebuild basically from the ground up. But having been there for the Pan Am Cup, seeing the B team in action, the junior team, unfortunate loss to Mexico in the semifinals, but other than that, like 2 wins over Cuba at the Norsicas or Pan Am Cup, or whatever that event was. Like, there's good things that are happening at the junior level, and Ben Josephson has had a direct contact with the youth and junior programs in the previous years. But as much as all of the, like, as much as I think he deserved 100% to see through, at least, like, this isn't even a real quad. It's 3 years. Right?
Exactly.
It's a mini quad. Like, who do we have to impress? Do you think Mizuno's sitting there tapping their foot, being like, "Hey, we need better, we need better results from you guys"? Like, no, none of our sponsors care, right? But like, how bad does this look on our program? This is a step backwards for the program, in my opinion. Now we're 2 years out from the Olympics. The Olympic qualification process is starting this year, and we don't know who the coach is going to be. Like, furthermore, the coaches they're going to be reviewing candidates from the short list of last year's runners up. And do you think those guys are necessarily going to want this job now? You gave the guy who was a quote unquote number one in your list less than a year with less than a squad to do something. To be perfectly honest, this is maybe the worst move I've seen from Volleyball Canada in my time involved with volleyball in Canada. This is it's
a huge step back. It's
a massive step back.
And we've got to look at this from a little bit bigger of a picture, because like you said, it's not even a real quad. It's a 3-year goofy window. A pandemic pushed the Olympics back. Glenn Hogue retires. You bring someone in to see at least through the Olympic Games in Paris 2024. Get there or try to get there and see what you can do if you get there. But the whole time, there's got to be some level of communication or synergy between the Volleyball Canada organization and the guy that they hired to do this job. And firing Ben Josephson this early tells me that there is a huge break in the system somewhere. There is no way that Ben Josephson would have approached this first year the way he did with the players that he did if he had known that his leash was going to be this short. Do you agree?
Yes and no. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I know where the link breaks, but I'm not willing to get into that here and now. Just for a lot of reasons. I mean, I have my own opinions on that based on being involved in some ways or another with this organization for the past decade or so. But I think that I think that, this is making me think back to a lot of conversations I had with people, not Ben Josephson himself, but people within kind of his like inner circle, his friends and people like that, just being, the consistent question from them was consistently like, are they going to give him a chance? And in my mind at the time, I was just like, yeah, absolutely, give him a chance to like Paris. We'll see how it goes. 3 years, that should be enough. Like we'll be fine. But I'm starting to wonder now if that meant, are they going to give him enough of a chance this year, right? And I wonder if he kind of always knew that he was under the hot seat and that it was this serious. But I also think at the same time, Ben Josephson is Ben Josephson, and he's going to do things his way. And I think he deserved a chance to do things his way. Like, look at the way he absolutely dominated U Sports over the past 10 years. Look at how he's created athletes for the next level. How many Olympians have come out of that Trinity Western program, right? Like they've beaten the best teams in the NCAA. They've done it consistently. They have raised the level. Ben Josephson has raised the level of Canadian volleyball, right? And it seemed perfect because you get Glenn Hogue raising the level of Canadian volleyball at the international level, and you had Ben Josephson and guys like Terry Daniluk and Brock Davidoff and Mike Hawk and Dave Preston raising the level up at the U Sports level, right? Like Preston and Daniluk, those were guys who have been there for a long time and legends. Like, Pascal Clément, same thing. And you had Ben Joseph come in and bring a brand new team. Like before Trinity Western, like when Benjo played for Trinity Western, they were a college team. They weren't even a university team, right? And then he took them over and made them the best university team, arguably of all time, right? And we give him not even a year. Like what confidence does this put to Canadian volleyball from Volleyball Canada in our system? This is the best guy we've had. This is the guy who's won the most. This is the guy who's produced the best players. Also for the beach game, looking at Kame Schalke, how he's probably going to be on USA 1. That's a Trinity Western Spartan right there. Like, what are we doing out here that we're letting our best guy and giving him like one at bat? That's all he got.
One at bat.
He got one at bat.
My questions are: what if you pull the trigger now on firing Ben Josephson? Where else are you gonna go? Who else are you gonna get?
Like Mark Lebedeau?
I if I were Canadian, I would hate that hire. I would hate bringing in anybody else, anybody who's not Canadian to lead this team. I do not think that will be well received in that locker room.
Yeah, but once again, there's one person, in my opinion, and within my relation to this game in this country, that is universally respected. Even the people who hate him respect him. Looking at you, Brandon Bobcats. But there was that was what it was so exciting when I was there in August for the Pan Am Cup. You had so many different coaches from different facets of Canadian volleyball coming together for this national team in a way that we've never seen before. Like, now what are we going to do? We're going to sit here, either it's Hogue going to come back and we're going to bring back the old guard, which it's not the worst idea in the world, but how much further does that bring us? It brings us to Paris, and then what? Right. And then, or we go international to someone who doesn't understand our systems, doesn't understand our culture, and doesn't understand our players, right? Furthermore, how many players did we just alienate from our program? How many former Trinity Western Spartans do we have in this program? Ryan Sclater, Eric Lepke, Lucas Van Berkel, Derek Epp. We're not going to get into the Elsers and stuff like that because I think that's a big question mark for some people. But still, there's people who make serious contributions to this team. Stephen Marshall, who are former Trinity Western Spartans. Now for a guy like Sclater, who's kind of in the later years of his career, guy for Stephen Marshall, who's also in these later years of his career. What do they want to come back? Right? Marshall wanted to go play beach last year. What? What's next? I think this is, as I said, I think this is a serious step back for Volleyball Canada. I think it's a serious step back for the men's national team. And I think that this is going to have seriously negative repercussions for the game. And like I feel like I've lost something, I feel like I've lost someone in my family. Like there's been a death in the family. And like one side of it is that I'm sad for Benjo, and I just said, like, I think he deserved a chance, and I don't think that was given to him. But on the other side is that I don't see what's next. I don't see what
that's where I'm at too. I don't understand where they go from here and what the trajectory is for the next couple of years, because you've just had a year where you've broken everything down in an attempt to build it back up from the ground up. And Ben Josephson was, again, trying to install a very technical system and identity of playing volleyball. And when those of us who watched the Canadian team play this summer saw how it went, it did not go very well on the court. There were a lot of growing pains. But now you're going to have to start all over again. You're going to have to start all over again in a year where you're trying to even qualify for the Olympic Games. Not that there is no reason to assume that Canada is going to get to the Olympic Games at this point. But then thinking after Paris and thinking at the lower levels. I think you made a great point about emphasizing how important Ben Josephson was to Canadian youth sports and to the junior and youth national teams in his less than a year as head coach. That's where the real future of your program is going to come from. And if you just bring in some non-Canadian, or bring Glenn Hoag back, or God forbid go get Mark Lebedew for some reason, if you bring in somebody like that, even if they manage to band-aid fix the senior national team, every level below that in Canadian volleyball is going to suffer significantly,
because we don't
understand.
We don't have a head of the program anymore, right? And that's the thing, is that there was no doubt about it that when Glenn Hoag was the head coach of the national team, he was the head of the program, right? And he oversaw kind of everything, and that was what Ben Josephson was doing, but tenfold, right? Because remember, Benjo wasn't doing like what Hoag was doing and going off and coaching professionally over the year. Like, he was going to be a full-time head coach and was going to be putting his time back into Canadian volleyball, like boots on the ground here in the non-national.
He left his job at Trinity Western to do this.
Yeah. So it's, let's be honest. I'm sure Trinity Western would have him back with open arms, but let's not sit here and speculate what he's going to do next. I think that he needs to take some time to, be with his family and through this. But yeah, I'll say this: I haven't have any confirmation from any players of the team, but from what it sounds like, I never saw any. This wasn't a Lebedew situation. This is to refer to the comment in the chat right now. I don't think this was a Lebedew situation, right? And we spoke to, like Rob, you were there at VNL, and we spoke to guys, and we saw the buy-in. We saw the buy-in from guys like Stephen Marr and Nick Hoag, right? We saw the buy-in from everyone, top to bottom. And yes, it was difficult, and yes, it was tough, and yes, we can argue all day if it was the right move or not, and what could have been done differently. But at the end of the day, there was buy-in, right? There's no dissent within the ranks from what we saw, and from what I've other people I've spoken to, have seen as well, to people who are also close to the men's national team. So yeah, I think that this is just ultimately a bad move by Volleyball Canada. At least give them the 3 years. Give them the 3 years or you know what? If it comes to the point where, like, even like after this next year, it wasn't looking, but like give them that at least. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. There's such a huge disconnect in the logic of this move because of how this summer was approached. I am convinced that there's no way Ben Josephson would have broken everything down to build it at such a level if he had even any suspicion that his leash might be less than a year. His focus was entirely on the process, not the product. Obviously, we saw the product. The product wasn't very good. If he had gotten any feedback from Volleyball Canada that he needed to immediately put more emphasis on the product, I feel like he would have. And I feel like he did not get the chance to do that, because this obviously was the year to focus on the process, not the product. Even though it was a world championship year, again, The Olympics were just last year. It's a weird part in the calendar. Glenn Hoag just retired again.
But like, and on top of that, when you look at our roster, right? Like, we don't have a roster to make a run anymore.
Yeah,
exactly. We don't have a roster to make a run anymore. And I have I've watched the growth of this sport in this country over the past 10 years, and it's been phenomenal. And that's why, if I look at the junior teams and I look at that B team that we've got, like, I'm very, very excited about the talent that we have coming up. But there's a bit of a lull right now. Right. And we can argue, and maybe the fact that there wasn't as much of an influx of young talent in the national team in here or there. I think some of it has merit, some of it doesn't. But that's just the reality of it. Like, we during VNL, like, it was painfully clear that we lacked guys with serious international talent and serious international experience. And there's only one way to do that, and that was to get it. Right. That was to get it. But this isn't, 2011, where we're not in the World League and we're trying to qualify it. Like, we're still in the VNL. We're still amongst the best teams in the world. Like, we still have however many guys playing professionally in the best teams in the world. Like, the bounce back was going to be able to happen. And now it's to me, it's just like, where do we go from here? And I mean, hey, like, part of me is willing to give Volleyball Canada some of the benefit of the doubt. Like, maybe there's a plan there.
What could it be? What that's my question. First of all, this looks terrible globally. As if Volleyball Canada didn't as if the reputation of Canadian men's volleyball didn't already have a rough enough summer, this makes it look way worse. And my real question is, who's going to take this job now? Either it's somebody who wasn't your top choice last November, who you didn't give the job to last year. Why would they feel all of a sudden valued enough to take the job now? Or even if you go out internationally and get somebody else, why would anybody feel that this is a secure position now? They just hired the best possible choice in all of Canadian coaching and fired him in less than a year. Why is this a job that anybody's going to want?
And what kind of confidence does it give the rest of Canadian volleyball?
Exactly.
Right? Once again, this is our best guy. This is the guy who's done the most for volleyball in this country within these borders. Like, the contribution that Glenn Hoag has made is immeasurable, right? And his effect on the sport in this game is like Mount Rushmore type, like George Washington type of like stuff. He will forever be the godfather for more ways than one. But at a certain point, we need to build onto that. Like, we need to build on the shoulders of giants, and we have one of the most stable bases to go off of because of what Glenn Hoag and this team has created over the past decade. But we got to move somewhere forward, and why not go with the person who's been the best coach in Canada over the past decade, and who has a definitive vision. You may not agree with that vision, and you may have issues with some of the players that he picks to do that, and so on and so forth. But he deserved the chance, at least the 3 years. Just two.
Without question. Firing coaches is something I've always kind of disagreed with. It doesn't. It at the end of the day, unless there's something truly toxic going on there, it doesn't produce the quick results as fast as you want it to. And where are you going to go now? I just don't understand that. And there's a question in the chat. Is there a possibility that Gord Perrin and Graham Vigas are behind this, like a Slovenian situation, if they come back with a new coach? Absolutely not. And I'm not Canadian. I don't know anything. But I was there in Ottawa. I was there at the end of VNL when Gord Perrin, Graham Vigas, Blair Bann, Stephen Marshall, all those guys were there. And they were celebrating Ben Josephson's first career win. They were celebrating. They were so much a part of the program, even though they weren't directly at that moment a part of the program. There is no way, Everett, you know more than I do. From my perspective, I did not see any dissension or infighting in the locker room. You're right. You said the buy-in was there, and it was. And it was not easy to have bought into that new system, which was very difficult. It took established guys, broke them completely down, and it produced bad volleyball. But those guys bought in anyway. And it just has to come from me from a place of lack of communication or clearly misguided or misaligned direction between Benjo and the team and Volleyball Canada, and I do not understand where they go from here. So, buddy, I'm sorry. I feel for you. I feel like a loss too, because I was there that week and I got to know Ben Josephson and I got to know all the guys. And even though it didn't show up on the court, I felt it. I felt it where I believed in it. I believed that what they were doing was going to work. And this just feels like a massive, massive step backward.
It does. It leaves the men's national team in this limbo that I've never seen before. I've never experienced, and I'm worried. I'm not worried because the only thing that reassures me is because I know the quality of athlete that's coming through the systems right now, and I know the growth of the game in this country, and the athletes that we're getting at the youth levels is phenomenal, and clubs are doing a great job, and universities are doing a great job, and colleges and whatnot. But I am seriously worried about the direction of the men's national team, and I don't see what the next step is here. I really don't, and I'm honestly worried, not only for Paris, but for anything past that.
Yeah. Point in the chat, Canada is an average team. You have to accept it. I don't agree with that at all, and that's not the point of this conversation. You're not understanding that there's so much more to this than the win-loss record of the senior national team. There's way, way more to it than that, as we've just gone over, and saying that Canada has no chance ever to be better than they are is extremely short-sighted, and I disagree. So
yeah, and I mean, there's one thing that I do want to address also. The chat says maybe a Brazilian or an Italian coach can make Canada goes better in the competitions. Okay, that's from a Brazilian guy. So, but
yeah, it's
like
a Brazilian guy.
I want to no, but I want to address that. And like, yeah, there's no denying that there's probably better coaches out there. And I mean, for me, like if we look at a guy like Benjo, it's not necessarily better in terms of like how smart he is or how prepared he is or anything like that. It's just level of knowledge at the international game and experience at the international game. Like there's no doubt that there's people out there that could help us, but the reality is that they don't want to coach in Canada. The reality is that we can't pay someone enough to come coach here. Right. And the reality is that if we can, it's someone who is like Stefan Antiga, who has to do it full time year round and coach professionally during the year and then come coach in Canada during the year. And it's to be honest, it's not easy to coach in Canada, especially for a lot of Europeans. So there's a lot of issues there for me. And I think we've seen we've seen with over the past few years before Tom Black and now Shannon Windsor, what it was like having international coaches on the women's side. And we got very lucky with Stefan Antiga because he knew our system because of his relationship with Glenn Hogue, and that isn't easily recreated. So going internationally here is difficult, but at this point it's the only option. The only other option I see is maybe Dave Preston doesn't want to spend his summers in Australia anymore, and he wants to come back and coach the national team.
That's the one thing that I was thinking of is
I see that as a lateral move at best, and with all due respect to Dave, and I love him a lot, and I love what he's done with McMaster and what he's done for this game. I don't know if he has the vision that this program needs, and I know Ben Josephson has that, not only at the national team level but all the way through. And I think this is a bad day for Canadian volleyball.
This is a bad day for Canadian volleyball, and it's a shame, and I'm sorry we had to spend so much time on it, but it was a huge piece of news that we'll obviously follow along with as the Canadian men are now back to where they were about a year ago and searching for a new head coach. So we will keep our ears to the program and let you guys know when we know something. But I know it's a difficult one to talk about right now. So Everett, where do you want to go from here? Do you want to talk, like, kind of segue that into wrapping up national team season? You want to jump and talk about club a little bit? What do you want to do, my friend?
Let's jump into some club volleyball because I'm international volleyball has got me sick to my stomach.
At least it's over for the year. It is officially now the end of national team season with the wrap up of the Women's World Championship. We are straight back into club, and on this show, we will jump in every week and catch up on what happened in club volleyball over the week or over the weekend. And I want to start in the best men's league in the world, the Italian Superlega, and Everett. I don't want to kick you while you're down, but I told you so. on last week's show, you said that Verona was going to beat Perugia. I disagreed. I thought that Perugia was going to stomp them, and they did. So Verona takes their first loss of the year. Perugia looks like the best team in the league. Kamil Semeniuk is the man, and I think that's all there is to say.
Yeah, I mean, did I actually believe Perugia was going to lose to Verona? No, but I needed to say something, right? And I mean, at the end of the day, if Verona would have won that one, I would have looked like a genius. So I was absolutely willing. I was absolutely going to go out on a limb for that one.
I respect the reach on the take. Rok Mozic, 6 for 21, 5 errors. That's just kind of it right there. And Perugia's offensive numbers as a team were unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, Perugia is going to be Perugia. They're going to be head over heels the best team over everyone. And over watching the past 3 weekends, I don't see anyone that's playing at their level at all, and anyone that even has the roster, like maybe Piacenza. But I mean, we'll get to that garbage that show in a little bit. But I mean, if you look, I didn't get a chance to watch the Verona Perugia game just because it was at the same time as the Women's World Championship Finals. Which, like, can we not do that?
Yeah,
Can we just hey, maybe let's not play any club matches not day of a World Championship final?
Yeah, maybe let's not do that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but the one thing that I did take away from this one is, like, Verona needs to figure out one thing. Either Gord needs to start swinging, killing, and getting scoring some points for Verona because he can pass the ball, or Keita needs to start passing the ball because Keita's been doing fantastic offensively, but absolutely garbage in serve receive.
Yeah, his serve reception numbers. I mean, him and Mozic both passed the ball very poorly in this match, but Keita's offensive numbers, 11 for 16 with 1 error.
Right, that's, like, he's offensively
60% efficiency.
He's so dynamic.
Yeah, and I mean,
awesome. What are you talking about? Mozic's passing numbers are fantastic. He was 47%.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at Gaggini.
It's the libero. It's the libero. Right. So that's the thing is that I think other teams are learning. Like when Gord is in there, it's a much different story. And I think this was kind of an oversight here by Stoichev to not put Gord in, because Verona is doing that good, but like you've got Rok Mozic and Sapochkov on either pin. You don't need Nomori Keita out there as well too, taking a part of that pie, right? Mozic was the leading scorer in Superlega last year. Sapochkov is the leading scorer right now. Let those two tee off. Let Gord pass him and play defense and score some garbage balls. Like with these passing numbers that you're seeing from Keita, who's going 27% positive and 15% perfect, and the same thing from Gaggini, 29% positive.
Yeah, that's
12% perfect.
Really bad.
They need Gord Perrin out there, because Rok Mozic has been like solid for them in serve receive, and that's really like when they have Perrin on, they try to serve Moses on the court, off the court. He stays strong and it allows them to run their offense. So something's got to be figured out there for Verona if they want to be a legit contender.
I was worried that Stoichev might have a couple too many toys to play with on that team, and sure enough, I think he's going to have a really rough time figuring out the right pieces to put in the mix match over match, because there are a lot of good players on that roster. How does he find which 7 to put out on the court is going to be something to continue to follow along with. And then at the end of the day, Perugia is Perugia, so they're the best team in the league. Whatever. Yeah. Speaking of, if there's one good piece of news for Canadians in the men's international volleyball world, Everett, it is this. Boy, do we get a banger of a performance from Mr. Eric Lepke, and boy, have we been waiting for this. Eric Lepke, 13 for 21 attacking with 0 errors and great passing numbers, and an MVP performance as Taranto beats Monza 3-1. That's got to make you breathe a sigh of relief a little bit, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen that Eric Lepke. I mean, like maybe like there's flashes of brilliance last year with Padova, but back to his Ravena days, and it was just like what happened to him, and it was great to see him back in action and just playing his game. Playing aggressively and looking confident out there. Like it's just seemed like he had lacked a little bit of confidence, seeing a little bit with Padova last year, seeing with the national team a little bit through VNL and through world championships. really, really good to see him bounce back and have a solid game for Toronto in this one. And I mean, he was phenomenal. As we said, no errors in this matchup.
Yeah, 2 aces and a stuff block as well. Yeah, that's the offensive performance we've really been waiting to see from Eric Lepke. So that was great. Tommaso Stefani, pretty good as well, 13 for 25. And on the Monza side, they're still just really continuing to struggle after Cachopa tore his ACL. They're going to hopefully find their footing. Stephen Marr, not quite as good this match, 7 for 16, 3 errors. And what really jumped out to me was 6 service errors out of 10 attempts for Marr. That is not good.
His serving was really bad, but otherwise, like, it was a stellar game from Marr. There's a lot of chatter in the Discord about how Marr was terrible and how Marr was choking. And when I was like tuned into this match, he was off at the point. I was like, oh man, maybe Marr didn't do great. He only scored like 2 points in the first, but then as the game progressed and I saw him playing, like, he was hands down the best passer on the court for Monza in this one.
And his numbers were the best, so that definitely makes sense.
And he had pretty decent numbers. I mean, at the end of the day, you have just a deficiency in setting for that Monza team, and they've got.
Fortunately for them, and we were wondering about this, what Monza was going to do after Cachopa tore his ACL in the preseason. They immediately hit the transfer market. They were going to go out and try and get someone last minute. They contacted Micah Christensen. That would have been awesome, but that didn't work out. But now Monza has found the answer, and it is none other than Jan Zimmerman. So Jan Zimmerman returns to the Superliga. He's set for Padova all year last year. He started this year at Bielsko-Biała in the Plusliga, who just got promoted from the B League, played 1, maybe 2 matches, and quickly got the phone call from Monza, probably a much juicier contract, and he is on his way there. So that is a confirmed move announced by the club and the league, and we should expect to see Jan Zimmerman starting at center for Monza pretty darn quickly. So I think that should help them. I think he's an upgrade over Petar Visic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's set in Superliga last year.
Yeah, he's been there before
for Padova, right? He's been there before. Spent
he's
some
got
time.
Got a fellow German guy, and Jurgi Grozer on the right side. So
absolutely. So there's a little bit of connection. He's played with Stephen Marr. No, he hasn't played with Stephen Marr before. But yeah, I mean, I think it's the best move that they could make right now.
Definitely.
And that's kind of what they need. And until Cachopa comes back, which might not be this season, it probably won't be this season. So
probably won't be this season. And yeah, that is a crying shame. But yeah, this is the best that they could do for now. And so Jan Zimmerman is headed to Monza. We'll see how quickly that can kind of turn their start of the season around. Really quick, we've got a couple more matches in the Superliga to get to. Milano beat Siena 3-0. Nothing really to talk about here. Milano is better than Siena, although it is kind of notable that Yuki Ishikawa didn't start, but no real cause for alarm there for me. I think it's actually kind of good that they can move Ebadapor, Ishikawa, and Mergarejo and interchange them and play different matches. If you're a Japanese fan,
that's a non-issue whatsoever.
Totally a non-story.
Absolutely.
Don't worry about
hey, Ishikawa, you take a day off. I mean, you've got three fantastic outsides on that Milano team who all bring a little bit of a different vibe, but are all great. So yeah, I mean, you can work those guys through interchangeably. I know Japan, anytime one of your guys isn't getting like the most preferred treatment ever, you freak out a little bit, but this is fine.
Yep, it's okay. It's okay. That's all I have to say about that match.
Yeah.
Siena's not good, whatever. However, we did have this particular matchup, which was kind of interesting.
Matchup of the undefeated relegation teams.
Really undefeated. The 2 early undefeated, but my 2 early candidates in the preseason for relegation, which so far I was wrong about, but sure enough, only one of them could remain undefeated, and that is Cisterna. So Cisterna beats Padova 3-1. Man, I mean, Cisterna looks good. F.A. Byram was awesome, 10 for 20, only 1 error.
Oh, but how about Peter Derlich, though? 19 for 35, only 3 errors.
Sick,
like,
man.
Cisterna's out here.
Awesome.
They're looking good. They're looking confident. Their jerseys are pretty nice this year too.
Yeah, their jerseys are good. Their jersey numbers. Their jersey numbers are about like size 4. Their jersey numbers are so small, but otherwise I like the look. Marco Sedlacek, great as well, 14 for 27. I mean, Cisterna looks good. I think both of these teams, I think I said last week, like neither of them have I obviously watched my preview of the Superliga when I said they were both going to suck and maybe get relegated because they're both playing with a lot of confidence. But definitely Padova came back to earth a little bit here. We had another classic Dusan Petkovic stat line, 18 for 43 with 6 errors. That is just absolutely classic, like 25% efficiency. And Ron Takahashi, unfortunately, negative efficiency on offense. So Cisterna did their homework scouting and blocking against him and ended up having to be benched for Matisse Desmet. So not quite as good of a start or not good of a performance for Padova as early, but who knows?
It'll be really interesting next week because Cisterna plays their first real opponent kind of in Trentino.
Yes.
So that will be that one. And I mean, we can just jump to it right now in Trentino. I mean, I guess we'll have to see because they're coming off a loss to Piacenza, although we have to put an asterisk on this.
Huge asterisk.
No Riccardo Spertoli in this one. And this is why we can talk about Trentino all we want. You had no Spertoli. Who was the kid that they put in? I can't remember his name right
Nicolo
now.
De Palma, 19-year-old kid. He
19-year-old.
Not locate the ball. He looked terrible.
He looked
good.
terrified. I mean, I remember we used to make fun of Palaporo when he first started for Modena, mostly because he was just swimming in that jersey, and I'm pretty sure it was a small anyways. But De Palma looked shaky out there. And I mean, hey, 19 years old. He had just come up from just been called up from the junior team too. So, but on the flip side of that, when you look at these set scores and you look at this game like panned out, and I watched this game was a lot closer than the 3-1 score shows.
Agree.
And this game, like it's there's no conversation for Trentino. For me, all the conversation is on Piacenza, because there was many moments and there was a serious point where I was like, holy crap, Piacenza's going to lose this one. They're going to start 0-3 and they're going to lose to Trentino with a 19-year-old rookie setter who's like not great.
Because terrible.
Trentino or Piacenza needs to figure something out, because they were absolutely so fortunate the fact that Trentino didn't have Spertoli today, because it would have been 3-0 for Trentino, and I fully believe that.
Piacenza's got to figure out their outside hitter position. I do not know. Somebody get in the chat if you know what is actually going on here, because Yohan de Leal started the first 2 matches and then
Ronnie,
help, dude.
Your boy is on that team.
Yohan de Leal didn't even dress for this match. He's not even on the stat sheet. Didn't play at all. Riccardo Lucarelli started. It was his first start of the year after he didn't even dress the first 2 matches, but he got benched. He got benched in the second set.
He didn't get benched. He got injured. There was a moment where there was a ball up at and he just he jumped for it and just couldn't even jump, and then was pounding on his leg the entire time. I don't know if it was a cramp or if there was something there, but yeah, Lucarelli really got injured.
Similar,
so that's why I mean, we have to definitely put an asterisk on this, the fact that they had Luka Basic playing on the left side, but still you still have Simone, you still have Brizard running the show. Who did they have on the right side again?
Romano, obviously. Simone was good. Kaneski was excellent attacking.
Kaneski was fantastic.
Yeah, Recine not very good at all. I expected more out of him. I mean, Luka Basic, he is what he is. He's just probably not going to win you a match. I didn't think he lost them the match. Yuri Romano's numbers were not that good. 14 for 38 attacking with 6 errors. He did have he ripped an ace to win the match, which was pretty dope. And it was
classic Romano. Romano.
Gamer, total gamer,
absolutely.
Ripped an ace serve in a clutch situation, but
his gamer stat in a volleyball game would be so high, or his clutch stat, it would be so high, because how many times do we see this from him now?
He's got to be better from points 1 through 20 though, and he just wasn't. So it's bummed to hear that Lucarelli got hurt again, because it sounds like exactly what happened at the World Championship, where it was an upper leg cramp or muscle tear or partial tear. There was some issue in Lucarelli's leg. It sounded like the same thing. So big asterisk on this match. Piacenza's got to get healthy. Trentino's got to get Spertoli back. I hear he's got an abdominal muscle issue, and it might be a couple weeks still. So maybe Cisterna steals one from him with another rookie setter terrible performance. Who knows?
I mean, yeah, if they don't have Cisterna's that good that if Trentino doesn't have why am I blanking on Spertoli's name right now? Spertoli, that like I think Cisterna can take them, and with the consistency that they've been playing with this year, I think that they'll see this as an opportunity and really run after it.
Tough week for Trentino, because not Trentino does play Cisterna on Sunday, but also they've got a Thursday match this week, and they play none other than Lube Civitanova on Thursday. And assuming that Trentino is going to have the backup setter in again, I think we probably know how that's going to go for them. Speaking of Lube, they really righted the ship this weekend, a 3-0 beatdown over Modena. This was never even close. These set scores were not close at all, and I can't wait to bring up some of the stats. One sec, let me pull them up. 25-21, 25-13, 25-19. Beatdown. Not even
close. Just not a great day for Modena at all. And I mean, Modena, I think that's another team that we're going to need to look for once again, just because of the aging stars. But Lube figuring it out, starting to come together now.
Yeah, they got Marlon Yant back. He was able to start the match at outside hitter. That was hugely helpful. He went 13 for 20 with only one error.
Yikes! That's gross.
60% efficiency. That's ridiculous. And almost as good, Ivan Zaitsev, 15 for 22 with only 2 errors. That's about 60% efficiency as well. Lube had 65% kills as a team, which is crazy. I'm going to calculate their efficiency really quick. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Also Lube going with Mattia
565. 565. Lube hit 565 as a team against a team of Modena's caliber. They passed 59% positive as a team. And Modena, I didn't watch this match, but the stats tell the real story here. They just apparently couldn't put any pressure on at all.
No, yeah, it looks like offense. And I mean, offensively, I just don't know how many options they have. Like they have Engapeth,
not much.
Who's, I think Engapeth is fantastic in that French system, right? When he has a setter that understands him, and obviously Bruno understands it, but it's just not working as the same way this time around. And there's just a disconnect. And maybe Chungapeth is it's starting to get into him a little bit. But I also think that's just early in the season. It's been a long international year with VNL and with the World Championships. So I think Engapeth is just kind of mailing it in at this point. It'll be interesting to see how he plays in like February and March. But yeah, ultimately, like this Modena team, I think is truly going to struggle. It's going to be interesting. Like to me, is like who's going to struggle more, Modena or Piacenza?
Ronnie in the chat, Engapeth fat. Not mincing any words right there. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't let a team hit 565 against you. That's completely ridiculous, and you're never going to win a match that way. So good for Lube. They look great. Who does Modena have this weekend? They have Milano. Could be a low-key pretty good match.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, I think where Modena's really starting to struggle is down the middle. We love Daddy Stankovic. We know he's our
birthday.
Lord and Savior.
You?
But you know what? He's out there getting more blocks than his compatriot in Tobias Crick. Who I'm sure
he's the greatest.
Crick made a nice little Crick talk, if you will, about his game off of like the few times that he touched the ball.
We're not allowed to talk down to Daddy Stankovic on this show. That is a rule. But I'm with you. He's never gonna score double-digit points in a match, but he is gonna look amazing doing it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like Rinaldi being a guy right now for Modena just doesn't work.
Nope.
It just if you want to be a serious team, you can't have Rinaldi out there. I'm sorry, he's just not it.
Nope, not yet anyway.
No. Coming off the bench is all right, but he can't be your starter.
Nope. So that's it for the Superlega from this past weekend. Coming up this weekend, like I said, Trentino versus Lube on Thursday. Then Saturday, we got Verona versus Taranto, Siena versus Piacenza. Sunday, Modena versus Milano, Monza versus Lube, Padova versus Perugia, and Trentino versus Cisterna. So I would say there's pretty clear favorites in most of those games, unless Cisterna can steal one from Trentino with a backup setter.
Yeah, we'll have to see what how Spertoli is looking coming up to this one. But yeah, otherwise, I would probably say Cisterna in this one if Trentino doesn't have a setter.
Yep. Let's take a quick look at the Polish league. The Polish Plus Liga is through 4 matches right now at this
Ronnie,
point.
you're so wrong.
What did Ronnie say? Rinaldi is
Rinaldi,
equal to
I think
Botolo? No,
you're
not even
so
close.
wrong. That's
Dude,
so
That's a
Ronnie,
terrible take. Botolo is
I-
way better than
I
Rinaldi.
used to respect you as a volleyball mind, and then you say stuff like that. Like, what are
No,
you
Ronnie.
saying?
No, that's
Goodness gracious.
That's a really bad take. We're talking about Poland now. We're talking about the
Let's go
Bundesliga.
to Poland.
There are only 2 undefeated teams left in Poland. One of them is Jastrzębski Węgiel, and they look great. We'll talk about their match in just a second. But also up at the top is Asseco Resovia, which their fans have not seen in a very long time. The Resovia curse has at least lifted itself for the first month of the season. We'll see when what sort of inopportune time it decides to come back. But Zhezhov looks great. TJ DeFalco looks great. Good for them. And also towards the top of the standings, a couple of the 3-1 teams. I mean, those top 6 teams there, we expect 5 of those 6 teams to be good. But what about Stal Nissa? How about Stal Nissa, man? Starting off 3-1 a year after playing in the relegation series. Good for them. Wasim Bentara looks great.
Yeah, absolutely. Stal Nissa, 3-1 so far. They do have to play Zaxa this week. Like their next match is up against Zaxa, so their time might be a little bit up. But hey, like, why not? Like, who did they beat? Zawiercie, they beat Lublin, they Radom, and they lost to Belchatov in Skra in 5. So I mean,
those are the teams they're going to be competing against for like lower tier playoff spots, and especially for not getting relegated. And they're winning all those matches, so good for them.
All right, yeah, okay. We'll see. I mean, I think them being undefeated, or sorry, 3-1 so far is punching a little bit above their weight, but
product of a bit of a weak schedule.
Yeah, we'll see what they can do. Who's on their roster? Let's go through this a little bit.
If you watched
they have Bushek. Show. They have Bushek, and
he can pass,
and they have Bentara. Okay.
Yeah, so Stalnis is a lot better than they were last year, so that's cool. But I do want to spend some time talking about this match. We hyped it up last week. It was clearly the best, like the only Bundesliga match that you really wanted to watch this past weekend, and that was JW versus Zawiercie. Now, if you saw the preview show that Adenos and I did on the Bundesliga, he actually picked Zawiercie to win the entire league this year, and just did not really go that way for them this time. Pretty easy 3-0 beatdown. 25-20, 25-18, 25-22. And Stefan Boyer looks like the opposite that we've been waiting for him to be for years now.
Yeah, he's coming back into it. We started seeing it a little bit this year with the national team, but he's kind of back in his old form. And that threesome that they have on the outside with Clevno, Fornal, and Boyer is scary. It's scary out there. And then you added the fact that you've got Tony Uti setting for them. You have Popachak passing. This JW team is really, really good. Wisniewski and Glider down the middle. Like this JW team is very, very good, and I like them a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like I've kind of been saying about them, I think if they want to legitimately win championships, both in the Bundesliga and maybe make a deep run in Champions League, I think Stefan Boyer has got to be the guy at opposite. His ceiling is higher, but he's had huge consistency issues, which are well documented on both club and the national team. But throughout the season so far, he looks great. So good for him.
He doesn't need to be the guy.
Right.
He doesn't need to take on a massive load. You've got 2 fantastic outsides on the left side who can pass, who can serve. Sometimes they're full now. Sometimes he's great. Sometimes he's, like 8 errors. And then Clevno, who's, as we know, can be world class at times and is shifty and has a lot of shots. So you can spread out that offense. You can dish some to the middle. We know Tony Uti likes to run his guys. There's familiarity there. So as long as Boyer doesn't get his ego in the way and doesn't need to be the guy, I think JW can make a serious run.
I think they can too, and I think Mendez is approaching this the right way and starting Boyer all the time. And if you see early that you get a terrible Stefan Boyer that day, which sometimes is going to happen, then you very quickly put in Jan Hadrava, and I actually think that's a pretty good formula for them. So
the Hadrava master does well coming off the bench. You
He
know,
always
he's
has,
wise.
relatively.
He's wise in his old age, and I think it's just a different look once you bring in Hadrava, like the high flying Boyer, who's a righty, and I mean Tonyuti knows him so well, and you can put him so tight to the net just because he has that ability to just go over top and high off the hands. Whereas Hadrava, you can also put him tight to the net because Hadrava is going to ping you off the elbows all day with
He's going to
that
try and
lefty
break. He's
that
going to
lefty
try and break your
shiftiness.
fingers, or
Yeah,
he'll just get
absolutely.
stuffed so hard straight down. Talking about Zawiercie for a minute. Bartosz Kvolek, not good this match. 6 for 23, blocked 3 times. Not good at all. Konarski, okay, I guess. 9 for 20, 35% efficiency. That's all right. Passing numbers for Zawiercie, not good. And definitely not. The numbers are very clear on this one. Zawiercie, not good. Not as good in passing, not as good in attack percentage, and not as good in serving, serve reception. So JW kind of looks like the team to beat right now.
I mean, the thing is that the passing on this team is going to be suspect. You've got Kovacevic, who's
They've got
all
Denani,
right.
though. Denani's got to be better. I mean, Denani's
Denani's a
got to
great defender, but an average passer.
8% perfect passing.
If there's one like I
acceptable.
think Denani's actually a bad passer. He's fantastic defensively, ridiculous defensively, but he's not a great passer. And that's kind of really coming like really obvious right now when you're looking at these stats, and he just doesn't. That was one thing when I watched Argentina in person this year, is that like they don't inspire confidence passing wise anymore. I remember back in, when Argentina used to play us in World League, passing, they were so strong, and I forget who their libero was at the time, but they just had
probably Alexi Gonzalez. He was the man.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was just like the guy, and he ran that backcourt. But Denani doesn't do. He's a little bit quieter. He's more athletic, but passing is not his strong suit. And this just Zawiercie team is going to struggle to pass this year.
Yeah, 8% perfect passing for Denani, 4% perfect passing for Kovacevic. That is not very good. So that's about it for the Bundesliga. Let me see what's coming up this weekend.
Can we address that we have Dan Manili in the chat right now?
Dan, you still know what a volleyball is? I'm shocked. What's going on that's good this weekend? Skra Belchatow versus Rasovia is a pretty good match. That is on Saturday. Zawiercie versus Olsztyn is a pretty good match. That's also on Saturday. And that's about it. That's really notable before the next show. So we will keep our eyes on the Bundesliga as always. One that Everett, I know you wanted to bring up, was in the Bundesliga. We had an early meeting of probably the best 2 teams in the league in Germany, at least the perennially best 2 teams in the league. And that was with Berlin beating Friedrichshafen 3-1. You've got a couple Canadians on Friedrichshafen, so I know that's cool. Is Blair Band playing? No, not yet.
No, he hasn't played yet in the Bundesliga. So yeah, this is an early one. I don't think Berlin is as good as they've been in years past, but I do think that they are still pretty solid. We'll have to see how Friedrichshafen answers. Of course, they've got Lebedew at the helm again. It's basically the same cast of guys for Friedrichshafen again. So I mean, yeah, we'll have to see how they bounce back. But to me, like the interesting stuff always happens like underneath that level in the Bundesliga. It always happens around the secondary teams, because I mean, you've got Hersching with 2 victories, Berlin with 2 victories, Gießen with a couple of victories, Lüneburg at 1-1. So yeah, it's interesting. I love watching the Bundesliga.
Yeah, Bounce House is electric. They just put out a jersey tier list earlier today, which I thought was really funny. And the like tier list labels on the left, like where that kind of bend each of the teams, were almost Ronnie Cuban Spike like. My friend on Instagram DM'd me. They were 10 out of 10, really nice, bro, looks fine, barely okay, that's a no-go, really bad, and then crime against humanity. So I think we can
but those ones make sense. Like those are funny. Like at least they make sense. Ronnie's tier list doesn't make sense, right? Like,
but it's just
how do you differentiate from ultra from super? Because thanks for participating, mega super. Speaking of which, subscribe to be a member to the channel to get your own tier list. We see Ray Iro. Is that how I say your name, bro?
Close enough.
In the chat there.
Hope. Yeah, we've got the Cuban Spike tier list going on there. Yeah, great stuff. Anything else about this Germany match? I don't really think there is.
No, that's it. But next, I want to talk about some stuff in France going on, because the LNV season has begun. And now, usually I watch the French league kind of afar, but I think I want to watch it a little bit more. And there's two undefeated teams right now. And Rob, both you and I are going to have interest in this one. The first one is the men in green over there, Tourcoing. They got a big win, 3-2 over Chaumont, and that's led by three Canadians. Got Blanks, who's going to slip the rock. Riley Barnes, who's been absolutely killing it for them and looking really good, like better than he did. MVP performance in this one. And then Lucas Van Berkel in the middle. So Tourcoing looking to make some waves early on in the LNV, led by three Canadians. So if you're looking for a team to support as a Canadian fan this year, definitely check out Tourcoing, because they've got the juice. They've got the juice for sure, and that's going to be a fun team to watch. But this, Tourcoing is a team that has been in the LNV for a number of years. They're continuously a playoff team, and the LNV is possibly the closest in terms of quality. Like their top teams
really is
like you have teams like Caen, who wins in 2021 and gets relegated last year. Montpellier wins last year, and they're like it's really hard. There's so much parity in the French league. So I want to turn your gaze to the other undefeated team that is a little bit more unexpected, and that's going to be Saint-Nazaire. And Saint-Nazaire is a team that actually was promoted from LNVB last year. They hadn't been in Ligue A since 2015. And after that, they were only there for 1 year, and after that, they had got relegated all the way down to the third league and had to work their way back up. But this team is 3-0 so far, with wins over teams like Sète and Montpellier, who are perennial powers in this league. And it's because of mainly two Americans. First and foremost, I mean, we've made a lot of fun of Kyle Ensing over the years for playing in Israel. And I mean, he's not playing in Israel right now. He's playing in the French league. So there we go. But Kyle Ensing has been absolutely massive. But Quinn Isaacson, we saw who's setting for the American national team this year, as the B team is setting for them. And he's been doing a phenomenal job. Saint-Nazaire is 3-0 with three different hitters leading him in each different match. So he's spreading that offense out. It's not just all going to Ensing. They've got this other dude who I think he's from like the Ivory Coast or something. Where is he from here? Helder Spencer. Where's he from? Oh no, Cape Verde. I apologize.
Wow,
two very different places.
What an obscure one.
But he really has been like, I need to go back and watch some video of him, because he has been putting up numbers for this team, and he's been like consistently their most consistent scorer this season. Like just this past weekend against Sète, he was their leading scorer with 17 points, and that's out of the middle. Aces, yeah, 2 aces, 9 for 13, and 6 blocks. So, and I mean, what's interesting right now too for Saint-Nazaire is a team that it's a small coastal town, and it's always been run by the same guy. They've had the same coach. Like when you go back in volleyball, they have the same coach since like 2005, Gilles Gosselin. But this year, for the first time, he's just the manager, and they've got a Brazilian coach, Robert Luiz Leonardo. So we're seeing some serious changes happening for the Saint-Nazaire team as they're bringing some teams in. So that is going to be a very interesting team to watch this year, I think, especially because Quinn Isaacson has been doing so good, and Kyle Ensing, I mean, he was almost all world for you as at the VNL this year, and it's great to see him back in a real league.
I'm thrilled with the development of both Quinn Isaacson and Kyle Ensing, and Kyle finally playing in a proper league again. And Quinn looks great. I think he's the third setter in the USA pipeline right now. I mean, it's probably him and James Shaw behind Tuaniga and Christensen. And Isaacson has about 5 years of youth advantage on Shaw. So I love what I'm seeing. Yeah, the Saint-Nazaire team is fun. I would like to watch a lot more LNV as well. And I'm pretty sure it's free to watch and not geo-blocked. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so too. Let's look into that. But and I think they also mostly have a baseline angle. So that's one thing. It's from high up. One thing that we're seeing in the chat here from Matt Buff, I'm pretty sure Isaacson was supposed to be a volunteer assistant at Kentucky before having incredible in senior season.
Awesome.
That's pretty dope. That's a fantastic turnaround.
That's
Also,
super
Lorenzo
cool.
is playing. Yes, Lorenzo, the Portuguese, one of the main guys from their run into LNVB last year, is still holding it down. He was one of their leading scorers. I think it was against Poitiers this year. So yeah, Saint Nazaire is going to be an interesting team to watch, and our American fans are going to have a little bit more reason to do so.
Check it out, Everett dropping knowledge about the French league. I love it. That's what you come to the 9 for, boys and girls. All right, we had a question in the chat earlier, as I think that just about does it for club news. A question earlier about, are we gonna do a national team wrap up like someone suggested in the Discord? Yes, I think we should. I know it's been a long show. We were gonna start the show with it, but we obviously had to address the firing of Ben Josephson. But I think Everett, we should go through it now, especially because we will not be having a show next week. So let's tie a bow on this summer of national team volleyball a little bit, kind of pull some storylines, some players out, and just tie a nice little bow around it for the people as we really start to dive into club season. So let's start with, as one of our friends in the Discord suggested, our most memorable matches of the summer. I know you've got a few written down. What do you have in mind for some of the most memorable matches of this summer on the national team level, either VNL, World Championship, or even like, I don't know, Challenger Cup or Pan Am because you were there, or anything that sticks out in your head as a great match?
Ooh, so I have a few. I'm going to go in most recently Japan versus Brazil, the quarterfinal from the Women's World Championships. It was phenomenal to watch. That match was so good. Japan was just playing a different style of volleyball and executing it so well, and is so fun to watch. And I really do wish that they would have won that match. Of course, we probably wouldn't have had the epic Brazil versus Italy matchup afterwards, but still, that Japan versus Brazil match was phenomenal. The other quarterfinal that I'm going to look at is going to be the Japan versus France quarterfinal that we saw at the Men's World Championships. That was just another incredible match, back and forth.
Best I've ever seen Yuji Nishida play. I really liked that match.
Exactly,
Japan showed up great in both World Championships.
They just didn't go away, and that's what I really love watching. And then on the Canadian side, I got to give a shout out to the women's team beating the Dominican Republic in the last game of this season. It felt like a truly triumphant win. It secured the best finish in program history at the World Championships. You're beating the long time, kind of dreaded regional rival, and I think really just put us in the map that we're here and we're ready to play. Thank God. At least, At
least one side of the Canadian program has got its act together right about now. That's a great one. I've got two picks, both on the men's side. One was United States versus France and the VNL, and I'm not talking about the VNL final. I'm talking about when we played them, and I think it was week 2. Where we beat them in 5 after getting embarrassed the first 2 sets and coming back and really showing a lot of heart and effort and getting by France in the 5th. I really enjoyed that match. And then another one that's kind of obscure that I like to go back and rewatch is Germany versus Serbia, week 1 in VNL Ottawa. I like to rewatch it because I was on the call.
That one's obvious,
right? I was on the call for that one, but it was a cool one for me because that was my first week commentating national team on site. That was really cool for me to do, and that match was ridiculous. It was a 5-setter that Germany won on an ace and extra points, and of the 5 sets, 4 of them went into overtime, and so that match ruled. Crazy competitive back and forth, and I enjoyed the way that I called that match. So go back and watch the highlights if you want.
I did a really good job, so that was my favorite. That was also when we got introduced to Nila Melniak's Aquaman on Serbia.
He shaved his beard, by the way. Have you seen the pictures of him without any facial hair?
I have seen them. There's
terrifying.
No men's volleyball player I stalk quite like Nikola Melniak. He's fascinating to me. He's awesome. It's almost in a predatory way, but we won't get there. We've got some really good best matches in the chat. Best matches like the France versus USA VNL final, of course. That
Cuba
was a
versus
good one.
Brazil, first match of the World Championship. That was a good one.
I also thought about putting that one out. Brazil versus Poland.
Slovenia versus France in pools. That was a good one.
That was a sick one, and that one was also really nice because I was watching it on my phone in a park while having a picnic. So it was just like I remember it nicely. Someone else, Denmark versus Turkey, European qualifiers. JK. That is funny. So yeah,
I personally enjoyed USA 3-0 over Canada in the VNL when Everett sang my national anthem on the show shortly after. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was a tough one. So
oh boy,
I personally enjoyed Canada's 3-2 win over the USA at the Pan Am Cup. That was another fun one too.
18 tournament. Nobody cares.
Yeah, I know. I gotta give me something right now, bro. I'm suffering. I'm like literally the worst is the minute that we announced it. Like my phone is blowing up, and like people are people are messaging me like this is happening. I'm like, bro, like I'm live on the show right now. Seymour, I'm looking at you, bro. You can't message me. You can't message me asking me if this is true while we're on the show.
It's true. Anyway, let's move on. Continue to wrap up national team season. I mean, most disappointing team of the summer. I think your answer probably goes without saying. I don't think we really need to even talk about the Canadian men again. But I was really disappointed by the Bulgarian men's team. I thought they had a terrible summer. They weren't nearly as good as I thought they should have been in VNL, despite the breakout look of Alex Nikolov. And then they weren't good at all at the World Championship, losing that 5-setter to Mexico.
Oh shoot, that's another one of my best matches this summer.
Watching
that Mexican team was so much fun. Had just really like hats off to Mexico. Super happy for them to get that win. But remember at the beginning of the year when we did the VNL show at TD Place and we said that Bulgaria was going to be good and Serbia was going to be garbage? Oops, that was a miss.
Wrong. Yeah, you don't come here for takes that are correct, and if you do, you're in the wrong.
I mean, we're correct most of the time, but we also admit when we're wrong. We're not Skip Bayless out here.
Oof. Yeah, right about that one. How about on the opposite side of that, the most impressive team of the summer, men's or women's? Everett, who stuck out to you?
It has to be Serbia women to me. I mean, I think like they just did it on so many different levels. Bronze at the VNL without Boskovic. They dominate world championships. I know that's an easy one, but hey, this is a team that's bounced back from a disappointing Olympic year last year. And once again, bronze at the VNL without Boskovic, like. If you watch their performance this year at the World Championships, you could say that, hey, this team has no chance without Boskovic. But they showed that they could do it without her at the VNL, getting that bronze. I think Santarelli did a fantastic job, and they put themselves at the top. So I think there's no more impressive team than the best team in the world right now.
Easy answer, but a good one, especially because of what they did at VNL. I think that might have been even more unlikely than the World Championship win. My most impressive team of the summer is the Japanese women.
That was my other one.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the quarterfinal they lost to Brazil and how unbelievable that match was, but you got to remember that they were 8-0 at one point in VNL before slowing down a little bit and kind of limping into the playoffs. But the Japanese women had a really good summer and kind of put their national team, at least on the women's side, on the map a little bit. And I mean, their men's team has caught fire, at least in popularity, the last couple of years, for better or for worse. But the women's team I was really, really, really impressed by, and they were just fun to watch. So wanted to give them a shout out.
I mean, ultimately, I think the popularity of their men's team is for the better. It just gets a little annoying sometimes. But
yeah, it is. And a point in the chat, the Japanese V-League men's side does start this week. So it starts Friday. Got a couple high-profile foreigners in there that we talked about last week. So check that out if you can.
Yep, Aaron Russell, Schwan Vernon Evans, Bartosz Jurek. Should be fun.
Mazursky,
Kubiak. It's good stuff over there. What's the next question?
Breakout player. It was a breakout player. My pick is, even though he didn't have as good of a world championship as he had at VNL, my pick is Amin Esmailnejad from Iran. He was just so gnarly good at VNL out of absolutely nowhere. I think he kind of defined a breakout player for that reason.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I mean, he was definitely someone I thought of, but his performance at the World Championships and just how he kind of disappeared completely. I mean, I don't think he just wasn't getting that much volume as much, but still at the World Championships kind of took him away. And I went like a little bit different with that because I picked a player who I think is breaking out to be in one of the elite in the game. And my pick is going to be Daniele Lavia. Because let's be honest, for a long time, our talk has been about Micheletto and Micheletto this and Unicorn that, and look at everything he's doing at Trentino, and look at everything he's been doing at the European Championships. And while last year, this is going to go back to last year at this time, because while Micheletto led Italy in scoring at the European Championships last year, Lega was actually the top scorer in the finals with 21 points. And he's kind of continued that, whereas like we've talked at length this year a number of times, both in the club season and the national team season, about how Micheletto's kind of fallen off a bit. People are starting to figure him out. He kind of looks tired, whereas Lega has been hands down fantastic. He was really great for Trentino this year, and I think he stepped up massively and was hands down the most after Gianelli, of course. Lega was the most consistent scorer and consistent player, and just he is Italy's Semeniuk, and I wouldn't have called that the year before. So I think my breakout player of the year is Daniele Lega, just because of the way that he's broken into the kind of that elite category of players we have right now.
It's a really good pick. Also an elite blocker, elite wing blocker on both sides.
His game all around to me is so impressive. He passes well. He plays defense, right? He's not too flashy. This is why I'm comparing him to Semeniuk, because he's not too flashy. He's not a high flyer. He's just a big body that plays the game well. At a lot of levels, right? So, and at the same time, he's only 22 years old. So, like, you can absolutely call him a breakout player, because if he was in North America, he'd still be playing university.
And segue that, Everett, into your kind of big storyline takeaway for the entire summer. I think that's a perfect point.
Yeah, I think the youth movement has begun on the men's side and on the women's side, especially on the women's side. We are seeing it, like the torch is being passed. I think that's exactly what we're seeing kind of in the Superlega right now, with older teams like Modena and Piacenza starting to crumble apart. We're starting to see that youth movement happen at Lube, and those other teams that are going younger are going to see good. But we're seeing a lot of good kids come up right now, like Alex Nikolov. How many on the women's side? We talked about it last episode.
About the men's side, Nikolov, Micheletto, Yant, and Mosic are all 20 or younger.
Mergarejo as well.
I mean, Sapochkov's like 22.
Sapochkov is
Namori Keita, and then like women's side, we talked about like all the best 5 opposites in the world are all under the age of 25. It's crazy.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good things, and that the game is going through a youth movement. We're at the dawn of a new era of volleyball, and I'm really excited about that. I think we're starting to see. I hope that right now we're seeing some of the young stars. I mean, remember, once again, Paolo Gonu is among those young stars. He's only like 22. Same thing with Karakurt. I truly think that these young stars are going to help grow the game more so than it's ever grown before.
Yep, I totally agree, and let's just hope a certain entity can market them correctly in the way that they deserve. A couple points in the chat before I bring up my kind of last point. One is Ronnie, Jesus Herrera over Amin. I didn't say best player, I said breakout player, and I would still probably pick Amin over Herrera. So you can.
Herrera's got to do something. Herrera's got to do something first.
Brazil, the Brazilian men, or maybe no, Brazilian women. Brazil reaching 2 finals. Yeah, it must be the Brazilian women. They have had a good summer. I actually think that both the Brazilian men and women have had better summers than I thought that they were going to. Most disappointing team, women's USA, definitely not. Other than the not medaling at VNL, I think hurt. But I talked about it on the last show on Sunday that 4th at the World Championships was about where I would have put them. So no big deal there. The point that I really wanted to drive home is something that we've talked about on the show a lot. There's too much volleyball being played. There's too much volleyball being played. And the players are suffering for it. I mean, we talked about last week or on Sunday the benefit that Boskovic got because she took VNL off. She came back and looked like the best player in the world. We talked about Alan Souza for Brazil's injury. I mean, Cachopa just got hurt. Like the injuries are starting to affect the game in a sport where injuries actually don't affect the game as much as many, which we love it for, in a way that really sucks. And I think it has a lot to do with how much volleyball there is going on. It's also bad for the fans. There is too much volleyball going on for the fans. I think it is too much to consume, especially when a tournament like the World Championship plays the quarterfinals at the same time, or like a great club match like Verona versus Perugia is being played at the same time as a women's World Championship final. There is a little bit too much volleyball going on for the fans, and there is way too much volleyball going on for the players. And unfortunately, I don't really see that changing for the better anytime soon, even though the players are starting to voice their opinions on this problem more and more, which again on this show we support. For example, just today, the FIVB has confirmed that the World Championship in 2026 will have 32 teams at it rather than 24. So that means even more volleyball at those tournaments rather than less volleyball. So
I mean, it all comes down to the
man.
format, right? Like if you're just going to do what, like 32, that's eight pools of 4, right? Is that math good?
I hope.
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
don't
Yeah,
know.
that's 8 pools of 4.
Yeah, and then maybe straight to a bracket of 16. I'm honestly not
Yeah,
sure. Or if they play second round or not. I didn't look into the format. I don't even know if it
maybe
was
more. Maybe you
announced.
go to like a bracket of 24 too,
Oh God,
with like
like
the pool,
buys.
like the pool. Yeah, the pool winners moving on, right? Like I'm all for adding teams if it means lesser games.
But there were teams at this World Championship on both the men's and the women's side
Yeah, I mean,
that just should
that's
not have been
that's
there.
the,
There
yeah,
were
that's the other
bad teams.
that's the other conversation
There
is
were bad teams.
there's not
Yeah,
32 good
good
teams in
teams.
volleyball
There were
in
bad
men or
teams
women.
on both sides, and now there's going to be 8 teams below them that are even worse, and that just is not going to be a good product for the first portion of the tournament. So we can talk about that in another show. But I think there's too much volleyball going on. I can't believe like I'm seeing videos on social media of the women's club season just starting up, and players that played in a World Championship final this past weekend already showing up to their club teams. No break at all. It's horrible for their bodies and ultimately bad for the product of volleyball at the end of the day. So too
Once
much
again,
going
like
on.
we've talked about this before. This is where we are broken records on this, but this is
Oh yeah.
volleyball. This isn't the NBA. This isn't the NFL. This isn't any of those European soccer leagues. They're taking buses to games. Like they don't like these are not athletes who are taken care of. These are athletes who some of them aren't even making 6 figures, right? Like these are athletes who, like they do it because they're professionals, but they also do it for the love of the game. Like no one's getting supremely rich out here. Like there's two players in the world who make over $1 million, and that's Leon and Agonu. After that, like if you're the 11th, 12th, 13th person on the roster, do you think you're getting 6 figures? Absolutely not. Right. So we kill our athletes. We absolutely kill our athletes. And it's also too much to the fans.
Yep, I agree. You're right. We're broken records on this. And yes, question in the chat: 32 teams from the World Championship is confirmed by the FIVB on World of Volley earlier today. Put that out. So,
well, hey, maybe Canada won't be out in the first round next year because there's going to be some garbage teams. Puerto Rico's good, or actually Puerto Rico's already there.
Puerto
Like
Rico's
Dominican
not nearly
Republic
as
will
bad
probably be
as
there. Venezuela,
I can't even imagine like
Latvia.
Probably 4, 5, 6 African teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. There's going to be 100%. You know it. Philippines is going to get an honorary spot, which actually I wouldn't hate. Like let's give it to the Filipinos. If anyone loves volleyball, it's them.
Too much volleyball, but no matter how much volleyball there is, we'll cover it here on this show.
Japan will be each given 2 teams.
Yeah, North Japan and South Japan or something like that. Oh, yeah. Great. So I think that's about it for the show. A long one today. We obviously had to address the Ben Josephson news early on. And since we're not going to be doing a show next week, again, no show next week. We'll be back 2 weeks from today. We had to get a lot in here. So a lot going on as always. It is nonstop volleyball at all times. There is never any downtime like we just talked about, but we can always talk about more volleyball, which we do on this show. Make sure you join the Volleyball Source Discord if you want that volleyball conversation to literally never ever stop. It's the best online chat community in the world. And another thing that you should do is go check out thatvolleyball.store, right, Everett?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to look good like me, one day I'll convince Rob to wear some of our merch on the show because I know he has a lot of it. Head over to thatvolleyball.store to get all of your 9x9, your spicy volleyball, your volleyball source, your Make Volleyball Great series, and help support us. And if you don't want to spend your hard-earned dollars on merch, maybe you want to spend your hard-earned dollars on a membership. As we said, there's going to be we're building the membership program here on YouTube, so that's only going to be $5 a month. And if you don't want to spend any money, that's fine. What you can do is follow us if you don't already. Give this video a like. and then comment. What should we get them to comment in the comment section at once this has been posted
That's
in about
a great
3 minutes?
question. How about who your MVP of the summer was? No, that's too easy.
No, I
That's
like
too
that.
easy.
Let's yeah. Who's your MVP of the summer?
Okay, yeah, your MVP of the national team season this summer. That's a pretty good one. So comment that after the live stream is over in like the main YouTube comments.
Yeah. Who's your MVP of the summer? Mine is Rob and I, because we fucking killed it.
Hell yeah. All right, boys and girls, thanks for watching. We do try to kill it as best we can in this show. But again, no show next week. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and we'll see you in the Discord before then. Thank you very much for watching. Oh, what's that?
We just got the Tinder bot.
Oh, dude, nice. We got spammed? Here. Yes.
Yeah, that means we're
wow,
going
we're really
somewhere.
making it.
If we're getting spammed, that means,
amazing.
We're doing something right.
Okay, I'll take that as a badge of honor. We'll wrap up the show with that. Thanks Tinder chat robot. Fantastic.
Click on it, Ronnie. Click on it,
yeah, Ronnie. You need to click on
that. Do it.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and we'll see you in the Discord.
Peace. Oh wait, show on Wednesday. We're doing the women's Italian league preview. Me and Tommy Blizzard.
Great call. So tune into that tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Right.
Thanks for watching.
Cool.
We'll see you then.
Peace.